the Iranian people will continue to be fighting against anything over them that is not Pahlavi, I don't think the Americans are going to be willing to basically be involved in killing the Iranian people fighting for Pahlavi. Like that is not something that I could just imagine, because if the United States wants to support anything other than Pahlavi, the Iranian people will continue to be fighting and being killed by whatever that is not Pahlavi. I mean, if whatever comes in place of the Islamic Republic either has to continue killing Iranians, and if it doesn't, then the Iranian people will just come and destroy them, right? Because they're not shooting at people. And but if they continue shooting at people, then we're going to have the United States basically supporting a regime doing mass slaughter on Iranian people, and I cannot imagine that happening. So I think that in that sense, Venezuela is not comparable to Iran, because the Iranian people are ready to die coming back to Iran. And I want to see what Jeffrey has to say about this as well. Jeffrey, do you agree with the stuff that I said?
Well, it's not about agreeing. I can just add to it. So there's a lot of truth to the fact that the Mullah regime, like taking out the Mullah regime, the challenges posed by taking out the Mullah regime is not the same as taking out Maduro. The target set's deeper, the country's larger, it has more air defense. That doesn't mean it's impossible. There's a lot to be said, though, with what a lot of people said, and there's a reason why, Vice President Vance said what he said. It's true. President Trump very much drew a red line. We have to back it up to ensure U.S. threat credibility and deterrence. If that is not done, it will be a disaster worse than when Biden recklessly disengaged from Afghanistan. Now, that being said, just like I try to reference, while I try to kind of push this point home, taking the brave Iranian protesters' resistance against the Mullah regime and where the Mullah regime fits in the broader global conflict that's going on between the United States-led Western alliance versus the autocratic bloc. Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, Chinese Communist Party, North Korean regime, sub-state people everywhere. So those are all moving targets, right? As we're moving stuff towards Iran, for good reason, there's a lot of people pushing for a much broader target set, including things like hitting IRGC and besiege headquarters, the prisons to free those prisoners. I won't go into detail, right? Taking out the leadership, siege, the suppression of enemy air defense, specifically TELs or the mobile launchers and all that, WMD friggin' stockpiles. As we're doing that, the Chinese Communist Party is bumping up its aggression towards Taiwan, saying which one you're going to go after, right? Because if you spend your long-range munitions, say, in Iran, that's the calculation by the autocratic bloc. Well, that means that's less missiles for Taiwan. Well, there are other ways to skin that cat, which I'm not going to talk about.
Okay, but Jeffrey, my specific question, and if you could get to this as short as possible, my specific question is the comparison between Venezuela and Iran, and regarding to how impossible it is to accept anything other than Pahlavi, given what the Iranian people are fighting for. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, that's why I said that. I kind of referenced why J.D. Vance said Vice President Vance said what he said, which is because President Trump boldly and rightly drew a red line in the sand. We have to respond, and it cannot be symbolic. The Mullah regime has to go. Right? It has to go. So there are many people arguing how to best do that.
But what I'm trying to zoom in on is not the Mullah regime going. That is, in my opinion, that is going to happen. That is going to happen. What I'm trying to zoom in on is the alternative. That there is no alternative other than Pahlavi.
One of the reports I was working on and I worked on outlined how His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi is uniquely positioned to help ensure the maximum amount of stability and transition from the Mullah regime's collapse to whatever type of government the Iranian people ultimately choose. There's very specific reasons for that. If you want, I can go pull up that report and give you a quick overview as to why. Give me a minute.
That would be a good discussion to have. So let's go back to Daniel and see if he wants to add anything to that. And then after we go through some other people, then we could go back to Jeffrey.
I have something real quick about about all the thing. I don't know how, if you can try to send that kind of a message, but try avoid Witkov. Look back on the history of Witkov actions. Every time Witkov tries something, it all goes like wrong in 180 degrees. After Witkov went to negotiate with the Iranians, with the regime about their nuclear program, they were they told him, "Oh, we're gonna increase it by 0.3%," and which is unacceptable, right? And then he came to Trump like, "Oh yeah, they actually was a really good progress. They told me they will increase it only by 0.0%, right?" After that, Israel went and started the bombardment. Kov tried to do business with Putin on the peace between Ukraine, and it all went completely wrong. Which after that, Putin came to Anchorage to Alaska meeting with Trump, which was like, damn, like American soldiers was putting Putin a red carpet. Like, what the shit? Just try to avoid this garbage.
So, Daniel, let me give you some information that shows how politically aware the Iranian people already are, and they don't. Witkoff is hated by Iranians, right? So, given that how Witkoff is very, very much hated by Iranians, which shows how much they pay attention and how politically aware they are.
Yeah, what's their view on Trump, though, according to you, Armin?
So, view on Trump is pragmatically positive.
All right, Gary, you're up.
Thanks very much. Jeff, I appreciate the color that you've been adding over the past half hour or so. So, Armin, I've been on, I forget how many telecoms over the past 48 hours about Iran. There are a lot of different thoughts. Most of them align with what you're describing. There is not full alignment with the Pahlavi return, according to a number of people, but that's not a declarative statement. It's just what I've heard from a number of different conversations. What does seem to be clear, though, is that
What
there
conversation?
is a. I'm sorry,
From what sources have you heard that?
from U.S. government sources.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So with looking at the 31 provinces, when you look at the 31, question, not knowing, none of us on this call knows exactly how the transition is going to play out. None of us pretends to know. But we do know that different ethnic groups have different security needs. And if I focus first on the Northwest, the Azerbaijanis in Iran, adjacent to the southern border of Azerbaijan, the Kurds in Iranian Kurds, adjacent to autonomous Iraqi Kurdistan. Is there a sense, because nobody's been able to project this, other than Baluchistan being a sort of a no-go zone right now for IRGC for a variety of reasons, are we getting a sense that, say, East Azerbaijan or West Azerbaijan province or Kurdistan or Elam, if any of these provinces are becoming somewhat no-go zones for IRGC and Basij personnel?
So first, let me go through the points that you made regarding Pahlavi. That information is wrong from U.S. government. No, Gary, it is wrong, and I know where they get this from. The Islamic Republic has Gary. That reaction means that you don't know what's happening. Every single city and town in Iran was shouting one name, and when they were being shot for it, they continued to walk on other people's blood in the streets to come out and continue shouting the same name. For 2 days, there wasn't a single city, town, or village in Iran that wasn't hearing the sound of people asking for Pahlavi to come back in Iran in the night. There is not a single other name that anybody is calling for. There is not even a competition. To compare it to the situation in Iran is that there is not even a name to make that comparison. He's not the best because the best suggests that there's somebody else. He's the only name available. There's absolutely nothing else absolutely exists. And people are, I think it's an insult to Iranian people right now to suggest that there is anything else, given that I think they have proven to the world what they're fighting for. Let me tell you where that information is coming from the US government. For years, the Islamic Republic and the MEK have spent millions of dollars lobbying different politicians inside and also different think tanks close to Washington for years. And they have produced report after report after report. And there's a lot of investigations showing that this comes from groups like Nayak. And the reformers in the Islamic Republic have admitted to doing this, and they have bragged about it being successful. The MEK does this on the Republicans, and the reformers, as part of the Islamic Republic, do this for the Democrats. When it comes to the supporters of Pahlavi, every time there was a misinformation coming from the US government and the Pahlavi supporters claimed that was wrong, they have had a good track record of every time being proven right again and again and again and again. So just because there's a US government report, like US government reports are sometimes based on interest groups and people's agendas and people's biases and who has the highest influence and stuff like that. Right?
So,
Just a few months ago, we were told that from think tanks and people who have like very fancy reports, we were told that Princess Pahlavi has close to zero support in Iran. And we were saying that they're wrong. We had really amazing fancy reports with people, academics and politicians, like people with big names signing it, and we're like, oh, it's only the Iranian diaspora. These so-called elites were telling us that it's only the Iranian diaspora love Pahlavi. Now we're saying that the Iranians inside Iran, if anything, they love Pahlavi even more than the Iranian diaspora. Because the Iranian people outside Iran, they're chanting his name, but the Iranian people inside Iran, they're dying for it. With regards to not knowing what's going to happen in the transition, short term, yeah. Long term, we're very optimistic. Transitions are going to be challenging. Transitions are naturally challenging and chaotic. However, I do want to make sure that we don't focus on the challenges of the transition to not be hopeful about the future of Iran once we get rid of the Islamic Republic. Because there's so much potential here. And long term, I'm very optimistic. I want to share and sell that hope to more people. Sometimes people talking about the challenges of the transition period might come off as being pessimistic about the future after the Islamic Republic. I know it's going to be challenging, but that's what you're supposed to do to get rid of the Islamic Republic, right? With regards to different ethnic groups and the security needs, when we're talking about ethnic groups, the challenges are not with the ethnic groups. The challenges are with the separatists. It's very important for us not to generalize the attitude of the separatists to the entire ethnic groups. Because we don't have a challenge with most Kurdish people. We don't have a challenge with most Azeri people. We don't have a challenge with most of the Baluchi people. I do agree that there's going to be some challenges with the separatist groups, but not with the ethnic groups, right? Most so-called ethnic groups are completely in line with the national agenda of a united Iran, right? And even against the prediction of some of the most optimistic people, we saw the city of Tabriz come out and fight for the name Pahlavi, which was the last city that we thought now that even us, we thought that maybe Tabriz will not join this round of revolution because this revolution has a Pahlavi name brand. So we thought maybe Tabriz is not going to join. But Tabriz showed up strong, right? And they shouted the name Pahlavi, which is a nationalist. We heard from the Turkish, by the way, a lot of people think that there's more separatists in Turkish areas than in Kurdish areas, which is, relatively true. But one of the most famous chants from the Turkish areas of Iran during this revolution is that Persian and Turk united for a free Iran. And they were chanting that in Turkish in the Turkish parts of Iran, right? So when it comes to no-go zones, I don't know actually, that's something that maybe you have more information regarding if the no-go zone area is an accurate description. But what I do know is that if we have any challenges with our borders right now, a lot of people are going to make it seem like if the Islamic Republic falls, these challenges are going to increase. But we have to remind them that we have these challenges with our borders specifically because the Islamic Republic is in power. Because the Islamic Republic has used the resources of our military to try to destroy Israel. And especially of our eastern border has been ignored for so many years because the Islamic Republic has moved all of its resources for the aim of the destruction of Israel rather than defending our borders. So even though in our transition period it's going to be challenging somewhat because some separatist groups might want to take advantage, and during that chaos it's going to be problematic for us to actually maintain these borders, longer term, given that all of the attention of our army is going to be the protection of our borders rather than destroying Israel, longer term is going to be, we should be much more optimistic about Iran's border integrity because we don't have any other agenda we don't have agenda spreading terrorism around the world, spending money on supporting Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hashishabi, Fatimiyun, Zainabiyun. All of that, all of the money and our resources that would be spent on that is going to be focused on protecting our borders. So short term, challenging, long term, much better for our border integrity and keeping Iran united. Go on, Gary.
Yeah. So first of all, Nowruz is not too far away. And one of the things I want to send to you is a crystal ball that is 100% accurate. Because if anybody deserves to have that, it's you on this call. So secondly, after that crystal ball arrives, you can choose when you're going to reveal what the future holds. But I hear you loud and clear. Number two is I'm an American. Yes, I've lived in Iran for different periods of time back in the 1970s. Even if I still live there, I'm an American and I don't know the Iranian heart. I trust what you're saying. I think that the last thing is that there can be no paralysis of analysis, meaning this: the transition will come, and yes, the pieces will be addressed as they emerge. The discussions that people in the West like to have about, well, what if this happened? What if that happens? That's a privileged position. And we fully appreciate that as Americans who do not know the hearts of Iranians. So thank you for all your very clear points.
Well, thank you. And I hope I didn't come off as confrontational or rude. You have to understand that we're in the middle, like we're talking about this and we're, people are dying. Like I'm just sitting here in safety and security and my fellow countrymen are dying for this. So if I speak like this, I'm not trying to be confrontational or rude. Just understand that where my mind is right now.
So number one is you couldn't possibly be rude. You're too much of a gentleman and a diplomat. No. Secondly, you did not come across as rude. And again, I'm an American. There are not 92 million Americans living under, a theocracy right now. So I yield to the senator from Tehran.
Yeah. Well, I can't unless, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, Dejal. Okay, Dejal. Dejal.
Yeah.
Dejal, by the way, I do recommend that because sometimes you might forget what you're saying. So I take notes before I talk. So I do suggest maybe you try that as well. But go on.
Yeah, I agree. Duly noted. Yeah. I got it.
Oh yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah. Dom. I forget who was. Yeah, I know. Who was the guy who was talking about the Palestinian, the AFD, and Musab Hassan Youssef? No, I mean the guy here, Danny Dom.
It was Daniel Dom. I took a note when you were when you raised your hand, just in case you forgot, and I wrote protest/policing.
Are we talking about Dajjal? If you can keep the topic on Iran, because I want to make sure that you guys could talk about other things as soon as I leave. But do you have any points about Iran?
Okay, I'll say that for later. As far as Iran goes, just want to back up your point. I agree with you as far as what the Iranians are calling for. Everything I've seen about all the videos, everything you guys have shown, and I've looked at myself, they're all calling for Pahlavi. All of them. I haven't heard anybody calling for anybody other than him in Iran at all. It's overwhelming. I was actually surprised that it was that lopsided, but it is. I don't think they're going to accept anybody other than him. In fact, I think they're probably going to vote for a monarchy. That seems pretty obvious to me. I mean, anybody else? What's it?
Constitutional monarchy, but yes.
Constitutional monarchy. Absolutely. But yeah, they want a constitutional monarchy, and that's going to be that. It is going to shock a lot of people because you're going to have a lot of people think, well, why would they want a king? Well, if you know anything about Iranian culture, it makes sense. But yeah, I agree with you. I ain't saying shit about anybody else, stepping up or them wanting anybody else other than him. And anybody who tries to push anything, I don't think they're going to stand for it. So I agree with you completely.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Who's next?
Yes.
I found that report, so I'll read some of the highlights of it regarding why His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi is uniquely qualified to disrupt potential authoritarian reconstruction after regime collapse. One of the first things centers on the historical continuity without authoritarian restoration. So Prince Pahlavi's connection to Iran's pre-1979 state offers a continuity of national identity without reinstating past institutions. This matters because post-collapse societies often seek familiar reference points, right? That's why Iranians are dying in big part. It's a sociological response to the disconnect between the Mullah regime that currently occupies Iran and what traditionally defines Iran. By explicitly rejecting him being put as a dictator or clerical rule or even personal authority, he provides a narrative bridge. The nation endures, the tyranny does not. And it very much neutralizes narratives that autocratic blocs, or authoritarian blocs, whether they're remnants of the Mullah regime or who discriminates counterintelligence state or whoever might, they typically weaponize during chaotic transitions. That legitimacy prevents strongman narratives, right? That's the strongman narrative they're preventing. The other issue is because of that historical connection, it's a rapid injection of civilian legitimacy at the moment of maximum risk. So authoritarian reconstitution most often succeeds in the narrow window immediately following regime collapse when you have fear, disorder, or uncertainty outpacing the formation of legit governments. So His Highness Reza Pahlavi's unique value is his ability to instantly collapse that window by providing a recognizable anchor of civilian legitimacy before coercive actors or spoilers can consolidate their power. One of the things that lends substance to that legitimacy is his direct role in the Iranian Prosperity Project. So legitimacy alone is fragile, right, without material credibility. So His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi's alignment with the Iranian Prosperity Project gives substance to the transition and economic normalization and anti-corruption architecture, as well as development of professional institutions and minority protections, much like his father did. This directly reduces the scarcity and desperation and subsequent emotional fuel authoritarian movements depend upon. All of that denies, in many ways, acts as, it's not 100%, at least a significant bulwark against foreign-backed authoritarian reconstitution. In other words, Putin comes in or the Chaikhans come in and take advantage of a power vacuum due to the Mullah regime being removed to set up their own particularly more aligned authoritarian government. I mean, there's no one else who has the personal, historical, or operational background that Prince Pahlavi has. And that's why he's uniquely positioned to do that.
So what Prince Reza Pahlavi also represents, other than who he is and the fact that he has the Pahlavi name, and Iranian people had a very good experience with Pahlavi, especially Iranians who never lived under Pahlavi, who just were born under the Islamic Republic, and some of them cursed their parents for making them live under the Islamic Republic, and they're watching documentaries and reading history. And a lot of Iranians are historically aware, and they're rediscovering what Iran had and what they are missing out of. Other than the fact that Princess of Pahlavi is his father's son and all the good experiences the Iranians have with that, there's a lot more to it, right? The Princess of Pahlavi has a set of values that that is basically the same values that, if they are implemented, makes society prosper really fast, right? So all the classical liberal values that I think most of us here believe in are also the values that Prince Joseph Pahlavi believes in. He's a free speech advocate. He believes in democracy. He believes in secularism. He believes in the separations of power. He believes in the decentralization of power. He believes in government accountability. He believes in free markets. He believes in investments. He believes in cooperations with the rest of the world, having trade with the rest of the world, having a normal, friendly relationship with the rest of the world. He believes in all of these values. Empirical evidence shows that these are the values that makes society prosper. And Iranian people choosing Pahlavi, basically, they're choosing all of these set of values, right? One thing that is very high on the list, but equal individual rights also. But one thing that you guys might not know, but it's a very high priority for Iran, is border integrity. It's really important for Iranian people. He also strongly believes in that. Another thing about Prince Reza Pahlavi is that his team and his plan. He has a very sophisticated team with a very sophisticated plan. And Iranian people, I mean, on my Persian channel, we have gone through this plan and his team. I have interviewed multiple people on his team. I've interviewed Prince Reza Pahlavi's main advisor and other people who have written the emergency booklet on the Persian channel. And the more people review what he's about. By the way, when he put out that booklet, he also allowed the Iranian people to criticize it for a couple of weeks, and they took all that feedback and they updated it. So it was like, also, he was listening. He wasn't just like, here's the plan. He was also listening for people to give feedback. But the plan is something that a lot of Iranians love, and the team and the people he has around him. He also chosen, you could see that the team around him, a lot of people who used to be his fan are not that big of a fan anymore, because they were just people who were just virtue signaling. The Pahlavi, Princes of Pahlavi wouldn't be people who are based on merit, rather than people who were, I don't know what is chaplusi in English. You know how somebody will just basically keep on trying to, I don't know, suck your dick to make sure that you get them some room in your cabinet or in your advisory group or something. So people who were
It's called ass leakers.
ass lickers, yes, basically. Okay, yeah, like there were a lot of ass lickers of Princess of Pahlavi that eventually, when he created a team, a lot of them were not included, and they're butthurt and jealous of the people who were included. But we're very impressed by the people who are included, because Princess of Pahlavi chose expertise and merit, and and all of that, instead of who was basically praising him the most. That was not his criteria. So many people who have been spending 40 years of doing nothing but praising him and thought that they would be given a seat at the table were not given a seat at the table, because they didn't have much to offer when it comes to actually having a very good merit-based team. That's number two. Number three is, a lot of Iranians have picked a supporting Pahlavi because, not just because who he is, but also because what he's not, right? Because all the alternatives to Pahlavi that were trying to be pushed on us were anti-Zionist, anti-West, as anti-imperialist as they call themselves, isolationist, command economy type of philosophy when it comes to how to manage the economy type of people. Basically, Marxist, woke, leftist, Mossadegh, MEK, all the people who, when you are for Pahlavi, you're basically against all of those. So a lot of people support Pahlavi because they want to avoid Iran being influenced by those types of ideology, and that's the safest way to do that. So it's not just about who he is, but it's also about what he's not. He's not Zionist, anti-West, or basically any of the other ideologies that Islamic Republic has, but Islamic Republic is a subcategory of all of those people. It's not like the infection that we have right now in Iran. The Islamic Republic is just the biggest part of it. It's like now the most powerful part of it. It's a tumor basically that is in different parts. The center of the tumor is the Islamic Republic, but it does have some other elements connected to it, and we're trying to remove all of it, not just the center of the tumor, right? And another point is that, yeah, so last point is that another reason why a lot of people support Princess of Pahlavi is because for the past 47 years, the main thing that he has been fighting for is not for him to come back to power, is not for monarchy. It has never been that. Not a single word written or stated by Princess of Pahlavi has ever anything to do with him coming back to power. It has never been. He has always refused to support the monarch. Okay? Or him having power after the regime falls. Everything he has always been insisting on and fighting for is giving sovereignty back to the Iranian people, allowing the Iranian people to be able to choose their own destiny. That has consistently been what he has been fighting for, nothing else. And every time he takes a position is because people have begged him to. And he has always, to the annoyance of many Iranian people, took so long to eventually accept a leadership role until there were too many people to ignore. It has been a difficult job for us Iranians to actually manage to convince him to take leadership roles, because he has always accepted the role only when there was so much demand for it that he couldn't say no to it. And what he wants to do, so whether he becomes king or not, or a politician or not, that is all up to the Iranian people. Everything he does right now is to get the Iranian people, the power back to the Iranian people so that they could decide. They don't want a monarchy, they get a monarchy. They don't want a monarchy, they don't get a monarchy. They want Princess of Pahlavi to be a leader in the future of Iran, he will be. Not that he won't be. The reason why he accepted the leadership of the revolution and the transition period is because we cannot have elections for the revolution. We have three phases. We have the revolution phase, the transition phase, and the post-transition phase. Only for the post-transition phase, we could actually have elections. But for these two other phases, we cannot have elections. So he has accepted leadership for these two other phases because the Iranian people have bled for it, have died for it, so that he accepts the leadership for these two positions. And we have to go based on what we can observe, because we don't actually have the ballot boxes to actually be able to conduct a proper election to see who gets elected. But once we go after the transition period, then we could have proper elections and see what the Iranian people want. If you guys want to know what the phases are, the first phase after the transition period brings some stability. We're going to have multiple elections. The first election is going to be a referendum where the Iranian people will decide whether if they want a constitutional monarchy or a republic without a monarch. Then once they decide between these two, we're going to have an election where we choose the representatives, the founding members of the founding council, where these people would be writing the constitution. So the Iranian people would be electing the people who would write the constitution. And once their constitution is written, the constitution is given to the Iranian people. And then we're going to have a referendum to see if we accept the constitution or not. And if we don't accept it, they're going to have to rewrite the constitution until we accept it. Once we have that constitution, now we have this in the constitution, we have the structure, we know how the king is chosen, we know how the parliament works. So then we're going to have elections for the parliament. And so there's going to be a series of elections for us to become a properly democratic country. Anyway, sorry, I talked for too long.
Francesco is next, if he's still alive.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit guilty for doing this intervention because I don't want to demoralize. I just want to give like an assessment of what I see, because the idea that Iranians want Pahlavi in power, I don't think is set in, at least in the public discourse. There are a lot of people planted to do interventions that have a different opinion on big channels, big journalistic channels. There is a loss of focus with given the current status with annexing Greenland and all that's coming out of there. I see some people that do not like or Caspian reports that do not report correctly on what. So yeah, the battle of narrative, I think, is far from over. I think there is a lot of confusion when it comes to what the people want, if the people are even protesting to remove the Islamic Republic, if it is, I don't know, inflation or other things like that. So I think there is still work to do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. You're saying there have been so many people who have been spreading fake news, and that's why the public discourse is not still set on the fact that Iranian people want Pahlavi. Yeah, that goes in line with completely in line with a lot of leftists, especially, and MEK and anti-Pahlavi. These people are really good at what they do because the people who are anti-Pahlavi, they're also the same people who are part of the Palestinian cause movement. And especially a lot of Israelis here know that these people have years of experience when it comes to changing the narrative and creating reports and news. Like the same people who are anti-Pahlavi, a lot of them are the same people who are basically are the source of information that there's genocide in Gaza, that Israel is apartheid. These are the same people, and they're using, a lot of them are using basically the same networks. I mean, they are the same people. So imagine the resistance movement or the Palestinian cause movement, all the networks that they have, all the connections to think tanks that they have, to the media outlets that they have, to the lobbies that they have, to the politicians that they have. They are using the same infrastructure and the same networks and the same portals to basically to spread all of this anti-Pahlavi narrative on different parts of the media and on the internet. So they're it's a don't underestimate them. They're very sophisticated. I mean, think about it. The vast majority of the world is convinced, for example, that Israel is evil and is conducting genocide in Gaza. So they know what they're doing when it comes to spreading nonsense around the when and it's also not a coincidence that the anti-Israeli people and the anti-Pahlavi people, at least in Iran, the Venn diagram matches almost perfectly because they are anti anything that is good for Israel and the West, and Pahlavi is good for Israel and the West, and that's why they are biased against Pahlavi because they know that this is a huge win for America and Israel. By the way, Caspian Report, I think he's Azeri, isn't he? And I know that I've been following. He has had an anti-Pahlavi bias for years. Like I've been noticing this for years. So he's like, I don't know what's wrong with him. Some people think that he has some maybe bias in favor of Turkish separatists, and that's why he's anti-Pahlavi. But I watched that video of him just recently came out, and there are some very obvious, demonstrable wrong, like obviously misinformed stuff that he's just offered as fact in that video, like obvious parts.
Can you
So,
say
for example,
them?
he said Israel.
Because yeah, we can cut the part of the video here and
No, but like for example, didn't he say that in the Israel came out and came like what? Let me get to that later, but let me just answer your question. Yeah, but we have a lot of work to do. You're right, and it's very interesting because this is what we lack. We don't have the connections that the anti-imperialist, anti-Zionist, cancerous movement, the connections that they have to lobbies, thanks, media, we don't have any of them. And we need to work on that. And it's interesting because Israel doesn't even have that. They're supposed to be controlling the world media, but they actually don't. Like actually suck at it. That's the only thing they suck at.
it's mostly
Yeah, it's
organic. In general, the
Yeah.
truth comes out and you get support from most of national movements.
But
The truth
let me give
comes
you
out.
sure, exactly. Let me give you a more optimistic look. It's actually amazing how much we've managed to achieve, given the amount of investment they made to keep the Pahlavi name out of people's narratives. This is the victory of Iranian blood over terrorist money, right? So these groups, they have been spending millions and millions of dollars to try to hide the name of Pahlavi and make sure that the world doesn't know who he is and what he stands for. The fact that now more people are talking about, like, you might look at this and be like, oh my gosh, so much misinformation. But me, as somebody who has been fighting for years for more people to know the name Pahlavi, this is night and day compared to just a few months ago. Like, the fact that he's on Fox News and is meeting with that politician or that politician, we couldn't be more happy. We're like, this is so much progress compared to where we were before. We do still see misinformation, but I think we come a long way. And the only reason why we have managed to get this far, even though everyone else was against us and we didn't, like, Princess of Pahlavi doesn't have like the budget that they do, right? The Islamic Republic has oil and gas money, and MEK used to have Saddam money, and now they have probably Saudi money, right? They have a lot of money. They're dealing with astronomical budgets. We don't have that. The fact that we managed to get even this far, where now so many people, I mean, he's invited on Fox News, he's invited on so many of these other platforms, and everybody's writing about it. Even in the European Parliament, they brought his name and they were trying to officially recognize him. This is because of the investment that Iranian people have made with their blood. They give their lives, and in just the past few weeks, they managed to undo decades worth of investment by all of these anti-Pahlavi interest groups in just a few weeks. And I'm very impressed. With regards to the Caspian report, if I remember correctly, he mentioned in that video that Israel in the 12-day war came out and destroyed oil and gas infrastructure. Just can you quickly tell me, like, if you remember that he said that?
Yeah, he did.
So that's BS. Israel did not touch oil and gas infrastructure. The reason why Caspian report was saying that was because he was trying to suggest that it was Israel that caused the fuel prices going up in Iran, right? That's what they did. And he also was trying to reduce the Iranian people's revolution to be based on economics, like an economic grievance, but not a single chant in Iran. Has anybody seen a single video coming out of Iran where Iranian people are chanting something about the economy? A single one. What people don't understand is during the master revolution, people were not out there because of hijab. The West still doesn't understand that. The hijab was a spark. The fight was to get rid of the Islamic Republic. It wasn't for people to be able to the fight was not to get rid of the hijab. The fight was to get rid of the Islamic Republic. The hijab thing was a spark that started it. And now, when the inflation and the oil price, the fuel prices increasing in Iran, that's not why the Iranian people are out. The Iranian people are out for freedom, for complete and total freedom, represented by Princess of Pahlavi coming back to Iran. That was just the spark. I mean, nobody in Iran is going into the streets and talking about the economy. Not a single person. So he's misrepresenting that. And there was another thing that was so obvious. Oh, he did the dumbest thing. You guys have my audio still? Because this is low and bad. I just switch it.
I can hear you.
Yeah, there's so many things that was wrong about the video, but one thing else that is so obviously wrong is that he used the presidential election for Pezeshkian, the number of people who voted for the hardliners, to show that the hardliners in Iran have support, have millions of support. The fact that he uses the Islamic Republic's data, by the way, if anybody has been following what's happening in Iran, everybody knows that the numbers the Islamic Republic gave for the election was obviously fake, because they were all divisible by 3 to the very last digit, which is astronomically unlikely unless you multiplied all the numbers by 3. So all the candidates have to go exactly, see, because this was explained to by mathematicians and stuff. So I have to go look at it. But the numbers they gave for all the number of votes that all the politicians that they got was impossible to be the correct numbers. And it suggested that they just, whatever the real numbers were, they multiplied it. And it was obvious. It was obvious to everybody. They didn't even bother changing it the last digits just a little bit, not to make it obvious. It was that obvious that this was a fake election. So the fact that he's using those numbers to suggest how much how much support the hardliners have, shows that he's either clueless or he has an anti-Pahlavi agenda. Done.
Okay, next we have, was that just Francesco? I'm sorry.
Yes.
So then we have Shai next.
All right, guys. Thank you for airing what I said yesterday. It was very exciting to see it on YouTube. And I wanted to say, wonderful Pahlavi, by the way. And I want to say, I'm convinced that it's only the Shah that should be the leader of Iran. I got convinced of that by you guys just from watching your stream with Goldie and Armin. And I thought it's time to export the chant, you know, long live the king, and also in a silent number, but maybe this. Okay, this is the final battle. Pahlavi is coming back. Everybody in the United States start chanting this, please. This is the final battle. Pahlavi is coming back. This is the final battle. Pahlavi is coming back. Long live the king, long live the king. Long live the king, long live the king. Javid Shah, Javid Shah, Javid Shah. All right. So
Okay.
everybody spread this, please. Hopefully this goes viral. And just start chanting it around the world. We need everybody around the world to be chanting for Iran, not just in Iran, everywhere around the world. No one's going to shoot us over here, anywhere outside of Iran. So it might as well. And we're going to show all of these commies and young Turks, because we're going to sing, long live the king, long live the king. Javid Shah, Javid Shah, Javid Shah. And this is the final battle. Pahlavi is coming back. This is the final battle. Pahlavi is coming back.
Okay. Thank you. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. I just, by the way, just before we move to the next person, every time we talk about this, I just want to say, Samantha, we love you. Okay. So just want to make sure that we don't. Okay.
So on that, Samantha would like to ask your thoughts on the future relationship between Iranians and Palestinians.
Okay. Let me just change my headset for a second because this is out of battery. Just give me a second. 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Do you have my audio?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Samantha, does she not have mic?
She's not turning it on. However, she wants to ask what you think the future relationship between Iranians and Palestinians will be.
Okay. So for people who are new here, Palestinians is what we refer to, we're referring to Palestinians here. Okay. So right now, the Iranian people, I think, hate the Palestinian cause. And for a lot of them, and I don't know what percentage of them, that translates to also hating the people there, just being descriptive. I don't think, I'm pretty sure that the future government in Iran is going to be very, very close to Israel. And they want to make sure that they don't just normalize relationship with Israel, but also have a strong bond with Israel. So given how many Iranians hate the Palestinian cause, and given that Iran is going to be a democracy, it's possible that many of our members of parliaments are going to be able to gain more votes by competing with how anti-Palestinian they are. I think the more professional point is going to be that to just focus on supporting Israel, and Palestine is not a country. So given that Palestine is not a country, the whole Palestinian cause thing is, we're going to respect Israel's policies regarding whatever they're doing with that region. And so we're not going to, probably a more professional position would be, not, you don't need to take a position like as a state, you don't need to have a position over something that is not even a nation state, right? Our position is going to be with Israel. So they're irrelevant, and we're just going to be supporting what the position of our ally Israel is going to be. I think that's, instead of just coming out and outright saying, like, having a position against Palestine, I think it would be more worded in support of Israel, right? And supporting whatever Israel does for its security. I think it's going to be more in line with that. And I do think that what you're going to see more is more aggressive positioning regarding terrorist groups. Like, I'm pretty sure that the future government of Iran is going to be very aggressively anti-Hamas, for example, anti-Hezbollah, anti-Houthi, anti-Hashd Shabi, anti-Zainabiyun, anti-Fatimiyun. And I think a lot of Iranians would want to see their politicians moving our army and moving our intelligence operations to go hunt these people down, because a lot of Iranian people want revenge. And there were a lot of these people who were killing Iranians, right? So you can expect to see a lot of Iranians wanting to push their governments to cooperate with Israel to go and hunt these people down wherever they are. So you could expect, what I expect to see is a lot of collaboration between the Artesh and the IDF when it comes to bringing security in the region. What I also expect to see is cooperation between Mossad and Savak when it comes to intelligence sharing and cooperation. I think that might take a while, by the way, because we need some time to recover. We do have a lot of oil and gas that now we could actually spend on building these things. So that might help us be able to spend money on building these things at some point to get us there. But it will take, so you need to be patient with us through the transition period. It might be a little bit chaotic, but before we actually stop becoming useful, right, to each other. So I hope you're not expecting like a 1 week turnover of all of a sudden Iran becoming a country that is now being helpful. I think you need to provide us some time for us to build our army, strengthen it, train it, reorient it in the right direction. But I'm pretty sure once we get there, Israel is going to find a strong ally in the neighborhood when it comes to fighting all of these terrorists in the region. And I honestly, when I say, I personally consider Palestinian to represent a terrorist group, not a country. So that's why if I'm going to refer to people in Gaza, I just call them the people of Gaza. I don't refer to them as Palestinian, because if every time I'm saying Palestinian, I'm specifically talking about terrorists, because the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian flag is a terroristic movement. So if you are one of the people in Gaza who is not guilty for some reason or another, then I don't consider you Palestinian. I consider you a resident in Gaza. Palestinian means that you are either a terrorist or terrorist sympathizer. Right? Oh, thank you. Thank you so
Okay,
much. Somebody just saying thank you. Oh, yeah.
thank
Oh,
you for
hey,
calling it Judea. Thank you for calling it Judea and Samaria. Number one,
yes.
we
Yes.
stand that. Before it's 20 to the hour, just to remind you, we have Elad next, Heidi, Dom, Dijal, Danny, Richard, Deck, and Jeffrey. So we've got a list going. When you're done with the recording for like 30 seconds,
Okay. All right. Can we go with the people who haven't spoken yet? Or that's too difficult to manage? Let's just go through.
It's still me.
Okay, Sylvia. Okay, go
Still.
ahead.
So I have two questions. The more important one that really, really bugs me, like painfully bugs me, is how do the people in occupied Iran right now get access to food and drinks? I mean, I know it was difficult before, but right now they're like in lockdown, right? So if you could elaborate on what does it actually mean? Do they have like time where they can go out and get food or medicine or whatever? And the other question is, considering that everything is closed up, how does it affect the IRGC's manufacturing machine of all the weaponry that goes to Russia and all the terrorists around the world? So just to know all about
So
that.
what was the second question?
How does the lockdown, how does the shutdown really of the country affect their manufacturing of all the weaponry and the drones and everything?
Oh yeah. Okay. So the second question, I think everything has stopped. Everything is being focusing on survival right now. I think the Islamic Republic right now is nothing other than shooting people. I think everything else has been paused. Right. So I think there's nothing left of Islamic Republic right now, as we're speaking, other than some people shooting at civilians trying to survive. Everything, the entire structure has fallen apart right now. Right.
So it means it affects Russia with their supplies of like the weaponry in the war right now?
Well, I mean, Russia has managed to actually build some of the Shahed drones inside Russia. They moved their manufacturing of that internally. So I think they predicted something like this happening. Right now, they're even calling some of the terrorist groups to come back to Iran to stop what they're doing in other places, to come to Iran to start killing Iranians instead. There are things going, like the Islamic Republic is bringing things into Iran instead of leaving. They need weapons from Russia or China as much as they can. They can't afford to send anything else out. Right now, they're putting everything they have to try to figure out how to not die. So there's like, they think that a lot of them are convinced that they're about to die if they don't figure this out. So everything else has to stop, right? With regards to how the Iranian people are finding food and medicine and stuff in the middle of the revolution, with great difficulty. I do think that everything has become less accessible, food, medicine, everything else. However, there's also a sense of unity that means everybody is working to help each other out. So that is helping out. So even like we saw even in the first hour of the revolution, when people didn't even know what's about to happen, people were showing up into the streets with backpacks filled with water bottles and napkins, other stuff that people need. Like a lot of, like even before it got this chaotic, people came into the street participating in the revolution with backpacks filled with maybe like snacks for people, water for people, napkins for people, first aid for some people. That's when what they were doing when they didn't realize how tragic this is going to become, right? And now the unity and the sense of cooperation and helping each other out is now more than before. So people are trying to take care of each other. I mean, we saw reports of doctors because people are not going to the hospitals because the government is waiting for them there. A lot of doctors are like risking their lives going into like private houses secretly doing surgeries on people, risking their own lives and stitching up people. And there are people who are trying to deliver medicine here and there for people who need it. So there's a lot of that happening. But stores sometimes like they're open less hours of the day, but their sales sometimes are open. But it is very difficult. It is very difficult.
Good point.
Okay. Heidi?
Well, hi. Hi. I just wanted to say I wouldn't get too depressed about, perhaps the reaction and Trump's rhetoric in the United States, because he's not really talking to Iranians. He's talking to his base. And he has to be very careful because, the United States has a tradition of protests. So a lot of them. And I think the American people in general are kind of jaded about it. And they tend, because of the last 25, 30 years, they have a kind of a visceral negative response to protests and anything going on in the Middle East. So, yeah, Trump, I can see why he would be muted about a lot of things. It has less to do with Iran and the situation there, as opposed to maintaining the political will that he needs to be able to help Iran, because he can't do anything without political will.
I think actually it's more to do with not giving up, keep the Islamic Republic guessing about what he's going to do and not putting much information out there. I saw some polls suggesting that many Americans would support United States supporting the Iranian people. So when it comes to political will, I think he has enough of that right now.
Right now, he has it, but it's very fragile on his side and his particular faction of the political body. But yes, right now he has it, and I think he's just trying not to screw it up. So I'm saying don't get too worried about that. He's very astute politically and knows what they need to hear. And I think you're right. It has something to do with Iran as far as not showing his hand, but he still has to maintain that political will. He doesn't want to lose it, and neither do the people of Iran. So that's
Okay, next we have Danny, the only one.
So, two things. First, I wanted to suggest to put out some video dedicated specifically to discussing the IPP in English, since the media will not touch it because it's related to the Shah. And there's great value to have some resource for people who don't care about it quite enough to read a 169-page booklet. And I think it's important to do if we want to fight the anti-Shah forces abroad, like that woman that spoke at the UN that I see everywhere nowadays, because I'm worried they'll spread misinformation about Iran after the Shah comes back.
So, guys, IPP is the Iran Prosperity Project, and the booklet that we often share is not the only booklet. There's so much more, reports and plans that they have released. The booklet is the most important one because it's the emergency plan for the first 100 days after the Islamic Republic falls. But they have a lot more other. Iran Prosperity Project is like a much bigger body of work, and that booklet. The thing is that the part that needs to be covered in English for non-Iranians is the foreign policy part, because I think a lot of people might not be interested about like the education, the education part, or the economy part, or the policing part. So I think what the world want to know is how Iran is going to behave in its relationship to the rest of the world, and that's why the Princess of Pahlavi has. That's why, by the way, this shows that we on our English channel, we were ahead of others, and we were correct to focus, because guys, before any of this happened, people who follow Atheist Republic on YouTube, you guys have seen that that's exactly the part of the booklet that before any of this have happened, I was basically going through it on our channel, the booklet, right? So this shows that I was on the, I feel happy that I was focusing on the right thing. Now that everybody is like, oh, who's this guy? What does he want to do? Like that, those exact same pages that I was trying to go over on our YouTube channel and our live streams are the parts that Princess of Pahlavi's team is now putting out there and making infograph versions of it. So I feel kind of vindicated. Like it reassures me that maybe some of the things that we're focusing on is on point. But I think that's the part that needs to be highlighted, and that's not that many pages. And also the princess has already made an infograph of that, so that's more easily consumable now for people. So we could just share that infograph.
I'm sure Samantha have some links for us. I missed that live. I'll go back and look for it. And secondly, I wanted to add on to something that Shai said yesterday, but then he mentioned it in Hebrew and he didn't say it in English. If you look at Israeli history, we were initially supported by the British and the Germans, and then these turned hostile, went slowly and went very quickly. Then in the 1948 war, we were backed by the Soviets, and after that by the French, and most recently by the Americans. So today, it's not a secret that substantial elements of the US are very hostile to Israel. And we don't know who is going to win which primary in 2028 and who is going to be the president. So it's necessary to be ready for the worst after the next election. And even in the longer term, I don't think it's wise to tie the fate of Israel to the continued benevolence of Americans. With regard to Iran, though, a free Iran is not just the absence of the Islamic Republic. Iran has a quarter of the population of the US, and they're all highly intelligent. Iran will definitely become a very powerful country once it's free. And they hate our enemies even more than we do. So we don't have to worry about their politicians being fickle about which side to support. And because of the geographical location of Iran, we even directly share security interests. So this is why I think that Iran will become the permanent great power ally Israel needs, which is why it hurts me that this revolution is so expensive, not just because of the past shared history of the Iranian and Israeli people, but also because of the future history that I know. And I really hope we intervene at our earliest opportunity. Earliest ability.
Yeah, thank you for that. And to your point, actually, you're right, because if given that United States might become more anti-Semitic, sooner than we expect, even in the government, it makes sense for now is the time for Israel to help the Iranian people get rid of their occupying regime, because by doing that, then Israel has much, even with less U.S. support, the main threat against Israel has been eliminated. So you might have less U.S. support, but you also need less U.S. support because your number one enemy and the funder of your main enemy is gone.
And all of us Jews who are going to have to flee the United States are either going to go to Iran or Israel. Israel's a little expensive, so Iran needs to scoot over and let us in. Next is Dajjal, and you are 4 minutes to the hour, Armin.
Oh, okay. So guys, keep it short here now. So because I'm trying to figure out if I could eat before I go back to Goldie's stream.
Yeah, of course. I agree with you, Armin. The priority for Israel, the priority, should be eliminating the Islamic Republic. Once you do that, your biggest enemy will be slain, and you'll have a new best friend over there. Even if anti-Israeli sentiment grows over here, it won't have the impact that it would otherwise. And since there's less shit, there would be less shit coming out about Israel, I think a lot of the attention will just naturally subside, and a lot of the anti-Israel propaganda bullshit will just fall more and more on deaf ears. It'll still exist. You'll still have it. You'll still have the anti-Israel grift, but it will be significantly weakened, and it'll have to adapt. But yeah, that's a priority. You take care of that, and a lot of this shit just goes away. Pure and simple. Also, I was going to say, if I had my way about it, if I was the Shah, the man I would want to be leading this talk would be Mossad Hassan Youssef. That's who I'd pick. What do you guys think? I think it'd be great. Can you imagine the terror that would fill people if that actually happened? The chills that would send up people's spines. I think that'd be very effective. What do you think? It's not going to happen. But
We need to move to the other person, but hasn't Musan Hassan, did I hear somebody saying that he has said some anti-Pahlavi things? Just quickly, did he say that?
Yeah,
I think the rest is against Iranians, not anti-Pahlavi.
All right, so fuck him. And also, by the way, just to be clear, I know you were joking, but just to be clear, the Shah is not going to be choosing the head of Savak. I think that there's going to be maybe the prime minister or some parliament, members of parliament. I think there's going to be a different process for that.
He said that the Iranians are spineless for the protest.
He said that after this revolution or before?
Yes, after.
He said it after.
Yeah.
He also said something about Iranian women need to quit worrying about lip fillers and go out there and do something, go contribute instead of plastic surgery. Something
there's some weird stuff where he seems to have.
Okay, so maybe instead of making him the head of Savak, we will send Savak to capture him, and maybe we'll bring back
have an Arab, a Persian war right after we finish the Iranian.
Maybe the Savak bears were not such a bad idea. Now that I think about it.
Okay. Israel, just a heads up, you guys might have to make some peace treaties between the Arabs and the Persians. Just for a warning. I don't know.
We're gonna be an honest broker.
Yeah, he has some weird. Yeah, there's something going on. I don't know. I was really shocked by Mossad's, but yeah, it seems that he has some weird. I don't know. He's been really great for Jews, but everybody has their baggage, I guess.
Maybe it misunderstood. I don't know.
He said some really rough stuff.
He's always been kind of crazy. The only reason why people like him is because he's been crazy in the right direction.
Right.
Okay. But crazy people cannot be relied on. Just because he's crazy in the right direction today, it doesn't mean that he's going to always be crazy in the right direction all the time. He's unhinged.
Yeah, I mean, he's the son of Hamas. You can't expect him to be totally kosher on all things. In some ways, it's going to be really good. In some ways, it's going to be really concerning.
All right, let's move on.
Armin, how many more minutes do you have for us?
Who's on the list?
6 people. Daniel Dome, Richard, Deck, Jeffrey, Rebecca, Shauna.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go, so I'll just stop recording for now. And is it okay, guys? Did anybody on the list really had to ask something from me, or Richard wanted to? Okay, guys, raise your hand if you really wanted to say something to me specifically for just a little bit. Okay, so Richard and Jeffrey. Okay, Richard.
Mine's very quick, I promise. That's actually my wife's question, full disclosure. So this is a post-revolution question for you. Just given that the people in the referendum are very likely to vote on a constitutional monarchy to some degree, I was just thinking about 30, 40 years down the road, the Shah's children, he has 3 daughters. Is there a clear successor, an heir to the Shah? Is there any historical precedent for a female Shah? Has that ever happened?
Yes, can we just hold this one? Nur Pahlavi is going to be queen.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the Iranian people would be so proud to show that they're not, the patriarchy or whatever other people call it. I don't know. I don't want to use feminist language. That they don't abide by those types of ancient values. So going from having the mullahs ruling to having a female head of country would be very poetic. And I think a lot of Iranian people would love that. Because there's nothing more anti-mullah than having a female leader, right? And it's but not in a third and fourth way feminist kind of way. More in a first and second, just equal opportunity. Not be more in a not being anti-woman type of way. You know what I mean? Not like these crazy woke versions of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Is there any historical precedent at all in Iran for a female leader like that?
Not that yes, actually, I was thinking about modern history, but ancient history, yes. We had female queens and leaders. We had that before. Actually, that's something that a lot of Iranians are very proud of because it was unheard of anywhere else when we had it. But not in recent history. In our ancient history, we had that.
Well, recently, I mean, you guys did give women the right to vote before lots of countries in Europe, so that's certainly not.
Yes. Iranian women inside Iran have a much higher authority and position than anyone, than most countries in our region, right? So, and that all happened because of Pahlavi. This is why I call the 2 Pahlavis the greatest feminists in history, because the position of women in Iran before Pahlavi during the Qajar dynasty was worse than what it is in Afghanistan today. But now we're in Iran, the women in Iran, I would just look at them, right? Look at how the way the respect Iranians have for women is unmatched in most countries in the region. Yeah.
Women had a lot of power in ancient Iran too.
Yep.
They're even in the military, like the commanded troops.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Armin.
I'm Israel Chai. Okay, Jeffrey.
Yeah, real quick. I sent you that report. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was after Richard. I just wanted to say something really quickly because I
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
even
Go ahead.
say anything at all today. So Armin, I just wanted to say you're spreading yourself so thin, and we feel and see you guys just going out of your way 24/7. So we really love and appreciate it. I know it's hard, but you're giving us this commitment to listen to us, to talk to us, and Goldie as well. Truly appreciate it. I think we've been all living with you for the last 24 days as a group.
Can I just say I appreciate you guys still being here because the rest of the world is moving on. So I appreciate you guys still being here.
And it's really important. I was going to pick back up on what you were saying a while ago with how Reza's put more into the spotlight. You're absolutely right. And I agree with you that I think it's a much more positive pattern in that he has more of a spotlight now, where I'm going to say even the beginning of last year, they would force him into the shadows and we would barely hear anything from him. And now it seems that with probably your help and just what's going on, unfortunately, in Iran, everything is more amplified. And in my opinion, I think, like I was saying last time we had a discussion, the pendulum is going the other way now, thank God. And people are starting to notice what's going on, and hopefully for the better. And when it comes to just the Palestinian cause and the just communist cause, that they look more and more unhinged by the day. And they keep spewing the same shitty rhetoric every freaking time that they open their mouth. And, we're going to have Jew hate, we're going to have this hate, that hate, everyday hate, whatever hate, all the time. But people eventually get sick and tired of it, and they're looking for a change, even if they could care less about anything. A lot of people are just over it right now. So I kind of am hoping that finally Iran will be free, and more people are going to wake up and realize what's going on, and also see the bad and the rot that have been spoon fed to them for a while now, but very, very much more so within the last 2 years, just because I think October 7th gave everybody that's crazy a chance to be insanely crazy. And I think these weeds are just kind of full of themselves right now. So now they're exposed, and a lot of people are seeing it, and a lot of people are getting sick and tired of it. So hopefully it's beneficial to our cause and what we're trying to do.
No,
Yeah, that's all.
I hope you're right. No, that's good. That's very optimistic view. Thank you. Okay, guys, Jeffrey and then Rebecca. By the way, guys, I think I'm gonna die in 5 minutes if I don't eat anything. So, if you could, like, short. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I just was going to tell you that I sent you that sent report on your message share. I'm going to follow that up with another issue in response to some of the trouble that you and Goldie were seeming to have with regards to the website that you demonstrate on Goldie's YouTube, specifically separating signal from noise in the open intelligence reports you're getting to like outline who's doing what. I'll send you that by later tonight, both in email and here.
Okay, Jeffrey, I hope you don't mind me not being able to go through them. Probably, I hope that's okay.
No, look, if you, it should have utility for you. It's of course you using it is at your discretion. I'm just trying to lighten your load, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's just that I'm getting information overload, right? Like, it's really hard to consume everything, but I do appreciate that. But I mostly rely on listening to you when I'm here in the group more than actually the reports that you send me. It's good that you send me them, but like, I just look forward to actually hearing from you more than those reports. But thank you. Rebecca, you raise your hand?
Armin and everyone, I just want to highlight the possibility of a blind spot in terms of messaging to US citizens and UK citizens. There's these two podcasters. One is called The Rest is History, and the other one is The History of Everything. They are talking about the Iranian Revolution, saying things like, it's not necessary that the Iranians actually